Yeah, it's brutal. Look, they're a good team in possession. They have been against everybody. In this particular game, they play with a false nine who's dropping in and overloading the midfield. And so for us, we knew there were going to be challenges in terms of really getting at their center backs to try to, really get after them. So we were comfortable trying to sit in a little bit lower position, crowding up the midfield, taking away, some of that stuff through the middle of the field, trying to make the game a little more predictable. I thought by and large we managed outside of a few situations, in particular the first goal where they run off the backside of us while we're dealing with the ball wide, and they get in and score. But I thought by and large we did a pretty good job of managing most of those situations through the course of the game, which is their strength. And I think, like you said, we got out 1-0. We gave it back right away, which is, a bit of a gut punch just how quickly we gave it back. The goal there was fight to halftime and get it. Second half, I felt like we came back. We were pretty solid. We adjusted slightly how we defended, and we got some opportunities as well. Didn't finish them, and now then it comes down to seeing out the game at the end. When you're in extra time and it's 1-1, you're on the road against, again, a solid team, and you got to make smart decisions. And the first bad decision is Isaiah trying to hit a switching pass when he's carrying out into space, winding the clock down. They've got numbers behind the ball. We need to drive as deep as we can and spin out and keep possession and get ourselves into their half the field and see the game out smart. Instead, we try to hit a switching pass with our left foot to Gabe on the other side, which is, it's a low percentage pass in a priority moment of the game. While that's taking place, Amiro is kind of sauntering up, trying to catch his breath. I don't know, but he wasn't engaged and focused on the play. And the switched pass, it just becomes just a series of events of just bad decisions, not prepared, bad decision, and then the snowball just rolls down and builds momentum, and they find it in the back of our net. Like, it's just, we have to be over that part. Like, it's a maturity thing, and it's an engagement thing and for today, because they had done so much work for 92, 93 minutes to allow that situation to be the one that cost us what would have been a solid result on the road with 2 home games in front of us. Instead, we give it away at the end and feel the suffer from what could have been a good solid sort of performance on the road, a good professional road performance until the very end. It's disappointing.
Then with so much momentum coming out of El Trafico, it felt like you were maybe moving closer to a win. Just take you another step backwards, seeing everybody's frustration afterwards, the players, everything. Do you feel like you're not making that momentum, you're not taking advantage of when you guys do play well?
Yeah, I mean, I think the frustration hit again at the end. I think the guys have been resilient. They've bounced back. We know we have 2 home games for the first time in the season. We've got to bounce back. We've got to back up our partners here that at the end of the game made a couple of tough decisions and a couple of plays. We got to back them up and try to come out on Wednesday fighting and defending our home turf. So, but it's like as you said, after a Trafico draw, coming down on the road in San Diego, a draw, given the way the whole day played out, probably wouldn't have been the worst thing. We had chances, they had chances. Would have been a nice builder into two home games. So now we gotta show some resilience and come back and battle again.
Thanks, Greg.
Yep.
Damien, go ahead.
Hey, Greg. What's your first conversation with the Miro on a play like that?
Yeah, I mean, it starts with no matter how tired you are, when you know that there's a minute or 2 minutes left in the game, you have to stay focused in the game. Like, you can't let your fatigue or whatever is going through his mind overcome him in that moment. Like, you don't get to relax with a minute and a half or 2 minutes to go. In 2 minutes you can relax. You don't get to relax in that moment. And because he relaxes and tries to, he's tired and he's his head goes down and he's kind of walking forward, the whole thing catches him by surprise. And then when it catches him by surprise, he just flails at it with his left foot. I think if he's prepared, he probably heads it. He probably does something that's a little more secure than swinging at it with his off foot and trying to deal with it that way. So for me, the whole thing starts is we put them in crisis because we play a ridiculous ball across the field, and then we're not prepared to deal with the situation when it comes to us. So this is like, but these are moments that we have to have learned from by this point. You know, like we don't get to take anything for granted on the field for 90 minutes, and this is one of those situations where, you know, we have to see it out.
And just one more, just your thoughts on Novak back in goal. What led to the decision to put him back in the lineup today, and what did you see from him today? Thanks.
Yeah, I thought he had a solid day. I thought his decisions, you know, with the ball were smart. He, in terms of when to go long, when to try to play through the lines, I thought he made, you know, quality decisions. I thought he took some balls out of the air, a couple set pieces, things like that were nice for us to clean some things up. I think probably the one that made a little bit of a mystery of was the one that went really high in the air that ended up kind of misjudging it and it bounced, but I thought everything else was relatively clean over the course of the game.
Go ahead.
What led to the decision? I think, you know, we've gone a bunch of games without a result, and, you know, at the start of the season he got 3 games. Of course, he made a couple mistakes, but we've also not been perfect. I think normally I get the goalkeepers, the seconds or whatever games when we go Eastern Conference, but I didn't in this particular trip. So when we came back, I wanted him to have a proper chance to prepare for the match, which he had this week to prepare, and give him a chance to see where he's at. So I thought he had a good outing.
Go ahead, Sophie.
Hey, Greg. When you look at the season so far and you kind of tally up the drop points from mistakes, that must be frustrating for you. How do you go forward with that? And then also, what's the mood like in the dressing room when one player makes a mistake and costs the team? How do you handle that?
Yeah, I mean, the lost points on errors or mistakes is, look, it's high. It's too high if for us to be in the mix. You know, I think that when you get to this point, one of the keys for all of us as players, former players, is the consistency, getting through games without, okay, you don't have to be perfect, but you can't make big mistakes, right? There's a big difference between mistakes and costly mistakes, and I think for us, we've had too many of the version where we have compounded mistakes is really what I get to, because again, the first ball that puts us into a bit of a crisis situation becomes the sort of the start of it. And I think, you know, we have compounded too many mistakes on ourselves over the course of the season and haven't cut them off, where if one guy makes a mistake, then the next one. So if Isaiah plays a bad ball, but Amiro's engaged, he probably heads it out, and we can start yelling at Isaiah for playing a bad ball, but we live to fight another day. Instead, we compound the mistake by not being prepared or whatever the case may be. But too many, yeah, it's frustrating for the group, because you get, you know, a lot of guys, everybody put in a big shift today, and when you drop points on little errors like that, it's frustrating, because it's hard to look back and go, okay, here are all of the collective things that were going wrong that we need to fix. It really comes down to us, you know, fixing our decision individually, or you know, a couple of us fixing a play that shouldn't happen. So the frustrating part is it's tough to have a direct way of fixing it when you're saying, for example, like it just becomes an individual error. So, but we're always trying to seek the solutions inside of that. The guys they're frustrated again, because anytime you go out there and you put a big shift out, and then you don't really have a great explanation for how you just lost the game, because it doesn't really process that series of events just took place. That's something that you just have to process a little bit, and that's what guys will go through over the next 24 hours or 48 hours, and then we have to just turn our focus to home match against San Jose.
Go ahead, Scott.
Thanks, Greg.
What was Novak's path like from those first 3 games, from those mistakes, to now, to working his way back into getting a start? Did he have to get past that at first, and how has he evolved over training since that time? It's been, what, a couple of months now?
Yeah, I think it's been a tough road for him, to be honest, because you know, when you come out from making a couple mistakes, when at the beginning of the season you feel like a couple mistakes at the beginning or just a couple mistakes at the beginning, but when you look at 14 games in a row where there's just not every game, but there's a lot of mistakes that are happening inside of that, then, you know, you start, I think for him, and I know because we've talked about it, he starts to feel a little bit like, well, I made a couple mistakes and now I'm not in, and there's a lot of mistakes that are happening out there. So for him, it's just been locking down, focusing, working on himself, his game, biding his time for his opportunity, and and being ready when his opportunity came. And so sometimes that's the challenge of a second goalkeeper, or if you've been displaced at some point, just finding your way and battling your way in. It's one of the toughest positions to fight your way back into, just because you don't switch keepers a lot. So I have to give him credit for staying in and being able to show up today and being ready to play, because I thought he showed up and looked like he had been playing games, not like he hadn't played a game in 2 months. So I have to give him credit.
Has his performance in training been pretty consistent over the full time?
Yeah, I would say he probably went through a 2-week period where he was frustrated, and but a little chat, and he also recognized it, and he bounced right back, and he got back into it. But in general, he believes in himself, and he's been working for this opportunity.
Greg, what kind of positives can you take from this match? I mean, you've mentioned a couple times that the team put in a tremendous shift. So what did you see out there that you liked, that worked?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, a team that's good in possession. They have a lot of good players that are very comfortable in their roles. They really overload the midfield, which is something you have to deal with, especially with Dreyer, who was playing as the 9, but really dropping into midfield positions where they're kind of boxing it up. Each of their guys is competent on the ball and very aware of sort of their surroundings and their connections on the field. And then they have Lozano and others who will take off for the depth, and guys who are clever about how they move. So for us we knew it was midday. You can't just get out and start pressing all over the field on a day like this and going, say, man on man, which is one way to disrupt a good possession team. You've got to be a little more calculated, and I thought the guys did a good job of staying connected, talking through the positioning of some of their players and their movements. Again, it wasn't perfect. They had a fair amount of the ball, but I thought we did, by and large, a really good job of dealing with a lot of those types of situations. I thought at times when we started to get some of our movements and actions right, when we were able to secure the ball, I thought we were able to pull them apart a few times. And we had a couple of moments, I think, in transition where we were dangerous. So, but again, I think we managed the game from a defensive standpoint pretty well through it for a team that is, who's very good at certain things for sure. And so that gives you a chance to be in the game if you can be solid on the defensive side. And I thought we were. We let a couple chances probably go that we would hope we would have done something a little bit better with, which sometimes, because we were setting up to play a little bit more in the transition. That's why Joe was in the 9 position, was see if we could spring Joe in some of the transitions. And I thought we were able to get a couple chances out of that as well. So, but by and large, I thought, again, great effort. I thought our defensive awareness and connectivity was solid. And I thought that led to us being in, even though we didn't have the ball, I thought we were in reasonable control of the game, which is not something I would always say, as we're comfortable without the ball for large stretches, but I thought we were fairly comfortable without the ball today.
As it relates to mistakes that happen on the field, and as it relates to repeat mistakes, how do you deal with something like that? I mean, is it something where, you sit a player down, hey, you've made a couple mistakes, I'm going to go with somebody else this match, or, I mean, could it get to the point where you're, even finding players for repeated just mistakes, just the same thing over and over again?
Yeah, I guess you could. I never looked at it from that perspective. For me, it's always been, one is improvement, because sometimes it's younger players, like how do you get them to improve so that they aren't making mistakes, and 2, there's accountability, which is playing time and things like that, right? So for me, those are the two ways that you attack these types of things. When you take guys off the field, other guys have to step up and fill the roles, and also can't make mistakes and things like that. But for us, it's got to be about accountability, which is training field stuff and playing time. I don't know. Everybody, if guys are out there putting in the shift and working and things like that, I don't know if financial penalties are the answer. Just never have been like that, but I do think everybody cares and everybody wants to be on the field, so playing time probably hurts as much as anything.
Monica? Scott?
Your thoughts on Sanabria, and he nearly put you ahead seconds in.
Yeah, again, you see he's evolving. You see his dueling, he's winning challenges, his capacity to run, his all of those things that we see in him that are his qualities that we want to continue to grow are there. His combativeness, in our midfield, and we win duels, and sometimes that's led to transitions and led to goals last week. And he's a guy who closes fast and closes hard, and that's a nice piece to have. So again, I thought solid game. I think sometimes just when he's between the lines and the spaces are tight, it's about tidiness on the ball, speed of thinking, knowing where his solutions are, being aware of his surroundings a little bit more sometimes. And but you see when he has focused and he's locked in and he sees a duel, he's excellent. But I think it's some of the other games where the game's moving fast and there's a ball that was played in between the lines to him. And I think he still had a fair amount of time, and he lost the ball in front of our goal. We kind of dealt with it, but just moments of making sure, like, again, awareness inside the field, especially the way we want to play, and being able to play through our midfield sometimes, just getting him continue to grow in that. But that's something he's absolutely going to learn. It's just a process. It's just a little bit different than what was asked to do before. But you see those qualities that he has, which makes him a special player.
And with Gabe, we talked earlier in the season about the difficulties he was having,
Yep.
given everything else that was going on. I'm just wondering, how is he coming along? It seems that he's still laboring at times to really kind of find what it is he's looking for.
Yeah, I think today was a situation where, especially through the course of the first half, the left back was really aggressive to release and get to him. And so it's important for us, a couple things as a collective group, to help Gabe out when a guy is that comfortable releasing and staying so close to Gabe, is making them pay for that guy releasing from the back line so soon. So being able to threaten the space behind where that player is releasing, giving Gabe some ways to help him to get unmarked, bringing him inside in the gap. But when he comes into the gap, he tends to stay too high, which makes it easy for the center back to defend him. If he will come lower, which he kind of fights coming lower and works under the midfielders, he'll actually find a better pocket to receive it, and he'll be more open. So some of it is on Gabe and his detail and some of his positioning in some of these situations, and some of it is collectively. In the second half, we tried to get Mickey closer to him and sometimes inside of him to create an overload on the fullback, where the fullback didn't feel so free to come releasing out to him all the time. So there's different ways, but for Gabe, again, he's got to keep his intensity level up and do the things that he has to do inside of that to give himself the best chance to be successful and not get frustrated because things aren't coming so easily, sometimes. And I feel like at times today he got a little bit frustrated because he couldn't necessarily, whether it was shake the left back or he wasn't getting the ball exactly at the moment he wanted. I could see some frustration building, so we tried to help him out of that a little bit through some positional stuff.